Welcome back to this already the final segment of The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I got JD Joyce on, author and friend. Great guy. Love having him on the program, bringing lots of insights on what's happening out there in in the world on the macro level and how it applies to your personal finances. He's author of the book, The Story of Rich, which is a compelling, it's fiction, but it reads often like a handbook for life to a lot of people out there when it comes to looking at that type of thing. JD, welcome to the program. Kind of give us your, kind of tell us a little bit about the story of Rich, and then talk a little bit about what you want to bring to us today and on this Monday morning.
Sure. Thank you, Kevin. It's great to see you, and thanks for having me on the air. I love being here and spending some time with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the story of Rich, I found over the years, I've been in the investment business now for 2 decades, and I've found that sometimes people would like to learn something, but not necessarily in a textbook format. And so the story of Rich is a book. It's a novel, actually, that teaches valuable lessons about about investment planning and finance and everything from mechanics investing to just some of the key principles that one would want to use with their investment portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we got started during the break, you said there was a specific area you wanted to focus on. Why don't you introduce that?
Sure. Well, with this book, I'm offering strategic advice and not tactical advice. And so my day job is tactical advice, but the book is strategic. And what that means is that this is strategy-oriented advice, and so that one can use whether the market's setting record highs, as we're kind of going through right now, or whether it's setting, during a bearish time where we're hitting, the low points. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that I would bring to the forefront is that right now, as the market's hitting these highs, I'm starting to see that more and more investors are getting excited. They're wanting to put more money to work. And I'm going, well, I get it. I mean, you see how well everything is going. But at the same time, we need to make sure that whatever one is doing with their portfolio, what your listeners are doing, they need to make sure that matches those long-term goals and objectives, as opposed to just having a knee-jerk reaction and getting in the market because we're hearing about these record highs being set, almost daily over the last week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, talking about that, in terms of thinking strategically about this, and again, there is a lot of euphoria out there, and that's, good news, in terms of potential investment, but also, to me, always as a kind of a clarion call for caution.
Yeah, I agree with you. The last time, if we go back to October of 2007, when we were at these levels, and now the S&P has surpassed that, 1576 peak back in October of 2007. But at that point, Kevin, the S&P was trading about 20 times 1 year's earnings. And now the S&P is trading more like 15 times. And if you're going out to the following year, perhaps it's 14 times, forward-looking earnings. So from that standpoint,
that's very optimistic, huh?
Well, I guess the point being that it doesn't appear to be overly expensive or overly inexpensive. It doesn't look overly rich or overly cheap, if you will, on a 30-year average. Because on a 30-year average, the multiple's been about 15 times earnings. But I think one needs to consider everything. So, for instance, if you're someone that needs cash flow from your portfolio, in my mind, we all say we want to do what? We want to sell high and buy low. Well, I have no idea, how much higher the market's going to go. I can tell you, think back to Greenspan. When he, those famous words, he had a lot of interesting sayings. But one of the most famous that he's known for is the quote, irrational exuberance. You remember that?
Yep.
Kevin, it may surprise you. He made the rational exuberance comments in December of 96. And it was regarding the tech market. The tech market bubble, it went all the way until March of 2000. So Greenspan had all the information in the world that one could have, and he was 3.5 years early on that call. So the point is, I think market timing is sort of a fool's game. It's virtually impossible. But having said that, if one does need to have cash, in other words, you have a liability coming up, or you just need to help offset your living expenses from your portfolio, in my mind, this may be a time to perhaps think about, raising some cash. Again, I'm not giving tactical advice because I don't know each and every person listening to this, their needs or goals or objectives and this kind of thing. But I'm just saying in general, If one needs a cash flow ladder, then right now this may be a time to harvest some of those gains, and to build that cash flow ladder, because the S&P has rallied about 20% since those lows in November, and so we've seen quite a climb here, and hope it continues to rally. But if not, and we know that you may need some money for something next year or so, right now seems like a pretty good time to perhaps raise some small amounts for that.
Okay. And what's typically the way that's facilitated?
Well, it's hard to say because everybody's portfolio is so different. So it would be difficult for me to say across the board.
So they need to look at what they have in their portfolio. May want to move some things here to somewhere else, and that type of thing.
Well, I think you could look at it from two standpoints. I kind of have to almost laugh at myself because my entire book is dedicated to not trying to time the market. And so I'm not all of a sudden putting on a cap saying, hey, I'm a market timer, because I don't think I'm smart enough to be a market timer.
Mm-hmm.
And because when you're a market timer, you have to not only know when to sell, but also when to buy.
Right.
So I'm not saying go
so you
out.
got to be careful unless you got a crystal ball, and it better be a pretty darn good one. You got to be careful when it comes to these things.
Exactly. And unfortunately, my crystal ball is a little foggy right now, so I don't know that I have that ability. But I can tell you that for those who do have liabilities, and if they need to have some cash, I would much rather sell right now as opposed to back in November when the market was 20% lower.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not trying to time the market, and I'm not advocating that anyone does that. But I think we just need to go back to these fundamentals and ask ourselves, where's the market trading? What are my goals and objectives? What is my risk tolerance? And the reason why I'm bringing this up about the market right now and risk tolerance is because it seems like when the market goes higher, it seems like we all have a higher risk tolerance because we want to get in the market.
Right.
Collectively, I'm saying investors do. And when it gets lower,
we would rather buy one that's at the highest price rather than on sale, right?
Unfortunately, and so we have to be aware of those issues. And so again, these are just some strategic, some strategies that one should think about. But I think that the book, The Story of Rich, it does help people identify these sort of things so they don't get caught up in the moment or in the emotion and make decisions that may hurt their portfolio or their finances for a long time to come.
Yeah. So we got about a minute or so left, and so let me ask you what's going on with the book itself, The Story of Rich.
Well, I'm really excited, and I appreciate you asking me that. First of all, the book is now out on audio, so that's pretty exciting.
Audio version, sure.
Yes, and it's kind of fun hearing someone reading. I wish I would have known that they were going to do it on audio, and I could have gotten maybe the wonderful Kevin Price to do the audio.
There you go. that would have been fun, actually.
But no, the gentleman who does it, he sounds great, and so I'm happy with who they selected. But it was surprising to me when I found it on Amazon. But we are still ranked in the top 10 for introductory investment books. We're in the top 10 for all investment books, and now based on there's a ranking for the newest books, and the audio version is a new book. If you look at it that way from the audio version. So anyway, so we're getting some great reviews and some great rankings, and I'm thrilled that all the customer rankings of Amazon what they're saying. We are at Barnes & Noble, as you know. I've met you at one of the book signings or two out there, and you can always get the book at Barnes & Noble as well as Amazon.
Yep. Wiley is a great company, great publishing house, one of the premier ones. Been around a long time in an environment where there's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys. And so I encourage you to learn more about his book, At the Story of Rich. Plus, that's where you also post your upcoming events as well, correct?
Exactly. That's right.
Make sure you check it out. TheStoryOfRich.com. Great book. Make sure you check that out. I'm Kevin Price. You've been listening to The Price of Business. We want to remind you, best content here is also found over there at usdailyreview.com. Have a great day and spend it right here on this station.